Have you ever asked yourself, why was I born? Why am I here? Why does life sometimes feel so painful? Maybe there were nights when you looked up to heaven and quietly whispered, God, do you even see me? Do you have a plan for my life? Many people live with these questions deep inside their hearts. Some are carrying disappointment. Some are carrying fear. Others are carrying wounds that nobody else can see. There are moments when life feels confusing, when doors close, when prayers seem unanswered, and when we begin to wonder if we have been forgotten. But today, I want you to hear something that may change your heart forever. You were not created by accident. You are not a mistake. You are not random. Before anyone knew your name, God knew you. Before the world placed labels on you, God already saw your value. Before you took your first breath, heaven already had a purpose for your life. Sometimes we compare ourselves to other people. We look around and think, why is their life moving forward while mine feels stuck? Why are they blessed while I am struggling? Why does it seem like everyone else has direction except me? Those thoughts can become heavy. They can slowly convince us that perhaps our lives do not matter as much. But God's view is very different from the world's view. The world often measures worth through success, money, appearance, or status, but God does not see you that way. God sees beyond what people see. He sees your heart. He sees your pain. He sees every silent tear, every hidden battle, and every moment you felt alone. Even when nobody understood your struggle, God understood. Even when nobody noticed your pain, God noticed. There may have been seasons in your life where everything felt broken. Perhaps dreams fell apart. Perhaps relationships ended. Perhaps you prayed for answers and heard only silence. And silence can be difficult. Silence can make us think God is absent. Silence can make us believe heaven has forgotten us. But silence does not mean abandonment. There are times when God is working in places our eyes cannot see. Think about a seed planted in the ground. After it disappears beneath the soil, nothing seems to happen. Day after day, the surface looks unchanged. It looks empty. It looks forgotten. But underneath the ground, something is happening. Roots are growing. Life is forming. Preparation is taking place in silence. Many of us are standing in seasons that feel exactly like that. We think nothing is happening. We think God has stopped moving. We think our prayers are being ignored. But maybe God is doing His greatest work beneath the surface. Maybe the delay is not punishment. Maybe the waiting season is preparation. God often prepares people before He reveals His plan. Before blessing comes growth. Before purpose comes preparation. Before destiny comes process. And perhaps that process does not feel comfortable. Sometimes God allows us to walk through valleys because valleys teach us things mountains never can. In our pain, we learn trust. In our weakness, we learn dependence. In our waiting, we learn faith. The truth is this: God knows parts of your story that you cannot see yet. You can only see today, but God sees tomorrow. You see confusion, but God sees purpose. You see delays, but God sees timing. You see closed doors, but God sees protection. There may be people listening right now who feel lost. You may feel like life has taken unexpected turns. Maybe you thought you would be somewhere else by now. Maybe you imagined a different future. Maybe disappointment has made your heart tired. But God has not changed His mind about you. People may walk away. Opportunities may disappear. Plans may fail. But God is not finished writing your story. Even in your hardest season, God still sees you. Even in your darkest night, God still knows your name. And even when you cannot understand the road you are walking, His hand is still guiding your steps. You may not know where your journey is going today. You may not understand why certain things happened. But one day you may look back and realize that what felt like confusion was actually direction. What felt like delay was actually protection. What felt like an ending was actually the beginning of something God had prepared all along. Because God does not create lives without purpose. And if you are still breathing today, then heaven is not finished with your story. There is something many people misunderstand about God's plan. We often believe that if God truly has a purpose for our lives, then the road should be easy. We think that if God is with us, doors should open immediately, problems should disappear, and everything should make sense. But that is not how God usually works. Sometimes the greatest evidence that God is working in your life is not comfort. Sometimes it is the process. Sometimes it is the struggle. Sometimes it is the season you wish would end. Many people want purpose, but very few people want preparation. We want the promise, but we do not want the waiting. We want the destination, but we do not want the journey. Yet throughout life, God often shapes people in hidden seasons before bringing them into the plans He prepared. Think about your own life for a moment. How many times have you gone through situations you did not understand? How many times did you ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Maybe you lost something important. Maybe you experienced rejection. Maybe someone you trusted walked away. Maybe life turned in a direction you never expected. Pain has a way of making us question everything. It whispers lies into our hearts. It tells us we are forgotten. It tells us we are abandoned. It tells us our future has been destroyed. But what if your pain is not proof that God left you? What if your struggle is not the end of your story? What if God is using even this chapter for something greater than you can imagine? Because God has a way of bringing purpose out of places that seem broken. He can take moments of weakness and create strength. He can take failures and build wisdom. He can take disappointment and create testimony. The problem is that while God sees the whole picture, we only see one page at a time. Imagine watching only 5 minutes of a movie and deciding you already know how it ends. You would miss the transformation. You would miss the turning point. You would miss the moment when everything finally begins to make sense. Many people are doing that with their own lives. They are standing in one painful chapter and believing the story is over. But God writes stories differently. Just because you are in a difficult chapter does not mean you are at the end of the book. You may be walking through a season where nothing makes sense. You pray but hear silence. You ask for direction but feel lost. You try to stay strong, but deep inside you are tired. And maybe nobody knows how tired you really are. You smile around people. You tell everyone you are okay. But when you are alone, you feel exhausted. You feel uncertain. You wonder how much longer you can keep going. If that is you, hear this today. God sees the battles you never talk about. He sees the tears nobody witnessed. He hears the prayers you whispered when nobody else was listening. And He has not forgotten you. Sometimes God's greatest work happens in seasons where we feel weakest. Because when we finally reach the limits of our own strength, we begin to discover His strength. Many of us spend years trying to control everything. We plan every detail. We want certainty. We want answers. We want guarantees. But faith often begins where control ends. Trusting God does not mean understanding everything. Trusting God means believing He is still good even when life becomes confusing. Trusting God means believing He still has a plan even when you cannot see it. Trusting God means walking forward even when the path ahead feels dark. And perhaps that is where many people are today. You are waiting. Waiting for healing. Waiting for answers. Waiting for breakthrough. Waiting for God to move. And waiting can feel painful. But waiting does not mean God is inactive. Waiting does not mean heaven has forgotten your name. Sometimes while you are waiting, God is preparing circumstances. Sometimes He is preparing people. Sometimes He is preparing opportunities. And sometimes He is preparing you. Because the person you are becoming may be just as important as the destination you are trying to reach. Years from now, you may look back at this difficult season and realize that it was not destroying you. It was building you, not breaking you, preparing you. Because God's plan is often bigger than your understanding, greater than your timing, and more beautiful than you can imagine right now. And as we come to the end of this message, I want to leave you with one final thought. Maybe you still do not understand your life right now. Maybe there are questions you cannot answer. Maybe there are prayers that still seem unanswered and burdens that still feel heavy on your heart. But remember this. God never promised that the journey would always be easy. He never promised there would be no storms, no pain, and no waiting seasons. But He did promise something greater. He promised that He would never leave you. Even in the middle of confusion, He is with you. Even in your darkest night, He is with you. Even when you feel forgotten, He is with you. Even when you cannot see Him working, He is with you. Sometimes we think we need to understand everything before we can trust God. But faith does not begin with understanding. Faith begins with surrender. Faith says, God, I do not know where this road leads, but I trust you. Faith says, I cannot see tomorrow, but I believe you are already there. Faith says, I do not understand this season, but I know you have not abandoned me. And maybe today, that is exactly what your heart needs to hear. Your story is not over. Your purpose is not gone. Your future has not been canceled. God is still writing chapters you have not read yet. There are blessings you have not seen yet. Doors you have not walked through yet. Miracles you have not experienced yet. People you have not met yet. And moments of joy that heaven is still preparing for you. Do not give up because of one painful season. Do not quit because of one closed door. Do not believe the lie that your best days are behind you. Because sometimes when it feels like everything is falling apart, God is actually putting everything together. One day you may look back at the very season that almost broke you and realize it became the season that built you. One day the pain will make sense. One day the waiting will make sense. One day the tears will make sense. And on that day, you may finally understand that God had a plan all along. So keep praying. Keep believing. Keep walking. Keep trusting. Because if God brought you this far, He is not going to leave you now. And if you are still breathing today, then heaven is telling you something powerful. God is not finished with your story. Amen.